Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Cat's Track. Thank you for subscribing, liking, and sharing this with your friends. Today's episode is with my friend Jane Bisbee. Jane was born in Hamilton, Ontario, and grew up in the village of Waterdown, just north of the city. As you will see from Jane's bio, her personal passions tend to revolve around history in all its varieties. In the public sphere, it is definitely the work and what impact it makes on the community. Friend, you'll find her full bio attached. Jane, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for asking.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I love it. I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
Well, it's good fun to be able to see people, especially in these times.
Yeah.
Right. And it's been a while since we've been able to sit down and talk.
I agree. I look forward to being in person one day.
Exactly.
Are you ready for the questions we sent you?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, so the first one being, what's been your greatest challenge in the last few months?
Well, the work in the Social Enterprise Fund has continued on. We didn't stop because of the pandemic close down. We're all working remotely. And what the biggest challenge is that I've found is keeping up with the things that are going on. We make loans to organizations that work in social purpose areas. So they're trying to do good for the community in one way or the other. And we had clients, of course, who were challenged by the pandemic closures. Any of those organizations that rely on the public coming in the door sort of had all of their revenue stream disappear overnight. So we worked hard with them to try to find ways to help them stabilize their business and get through the challenges of that. But then what's been really interesting are the numbers of people seeing opportunity in this, ways to move forward. For example, we have had organizations that are working in affordable housing suddenly come forward speeding up projects that they've been thinking about for a long time, because all of a sudden there are buildings that are available, there are contractors that are available at a better price. We have one loan that we'd offered to an organization that runs a children's camp, and they've needed a new dining hall for forever, and suddenly the not having children around to fall into the hole, it became a whole lot smarter to build that over this summer and fall than previous. And so they've been able to find ways of moving ahead with that by getting good construction prices and having the opportunity. So it's a matter of, I love the Alberta spirit of, okay, yes, this is hard, but what do we do to try to move it forward? So that's been my biggest challenge, is finding out how to keep the opportunities possible for those kinds of organizations.
What an impact you and your organization are making here in Alberta. I'm absolutely delighted.
Well, we're trying.
That's
and
awesome.
it's because we've had investors, primarily the Edmonton Community Foundation, who've made huge commitments to us in putting resources into our hands to be able to use this way. We've just passed our 10th birthday, and we've made 75 loans actually we made another one on Thursday, so I guess I better say 76 loans over those 10 years, placed about $60 million across the province into different kinds of things, and everything from affordable housing, job creation for barriered people, environmental projects, food security projects, social infrastructure, cultural infrastructure, all kinds of stuff. So
amazing.
Yeah, it's been really gratifying to be able to do this kind of work. Come into the office every day and say, okay, what can we do that'll do some good?
I love it.
Yeah,
that would be a lot easier to get out of bed when you're making that kind of.
Yeah. It's amazing what other things you can put up with if that's what you get to think about doing every day.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jane.
No, thank you.
And the 3 things that you want to share with us today?
The three things. I think that it's interesting to be able to think about what this pandemic, I mean, this is in the same lines, what this pandemic can allow us to do. I know it's challenging, but I think that it gets us to the point where we maybe can think about what's the new economy look like? And this sounds very strange. A lot of people say, oh, the social enterprise fund, you do things that are so innovative and different. Actually, I think we're going back to a very old fashioned kind of model where community works together to make a difference, to make things happen. It's 50 years now since Milton Friedman came out with the social responsibility of business is to make a profit. And I think what we're maybe finding out now, and what I see in the world that I'm working in, is more people that think that there is a bigger answer than just that. It's more about just making profit. It's about your role and responsibility in community, both as an individual and as a business and as any kind of entity. I think of nonprofits as a business as well.
Yes.
All they are is they have told the Canadian Revenue Agency that they're going to use their profits in a different way. They're not going to pay it out to shareholders. They're going to actually put it back into the business and the activity that they're doing. And for that, they get certain kinds of tax benefits. That's the only real difference about how you operate. And I think we're beginning maybe now to see that there is a different way to do this, a way that's old fashioned. We used to have corporations that felt very responsible for their community and very engaged in their community. In some cases, to the point of building housing, building hospitals, building social safety nets around their employees. And they knew that because they were a large, important business in the community, that was their responsibility. And I think we're starting to go back to that, to see maybe, God bless you, Milton, but maybe you had it wrong. Maybe it is more than simply paying out dividends to your shareholders. It's important. I mean, you have to make more money coming in than going out, or you don't get to do any of this.
Sure.
And that's true regardless of what kind of part of the economy you're in, whether you're in a not-for-profit theater company or a for-profit manufacturing company. In the end, you still have to live inside a community, and you still have to earn your way to be able to make whatever it is you want to make, whether it's theater or some kind of other widget. So that's to me the interesting thinking that I'm seeing, that this pandemic and the times we're in are giving us a chance to relook at all of that stuff. God knows we have to rethink the economy in this province and look for broader opportunities than what we have relied on, and also ways to support the things that we've relied on forever. Like the agricultural industry in this province is still incredibly important, and food security is important as well. Well, we need to figure out how to meld those two things together. Anyway, I find it a really interesting time, and this work in this sector has given me a very interesting seat to watch it from.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Very cool. Anything else you want to share around that?
That probably is what I am spending most of my time obsessing about at this point. I think that people have a way to actually get engaged in all of this and this kind of conversation, and I hope people will do that. Will think outside of their normal boxes and see what other possible ways there are. I also hope that young people and people who are really engaged with social innovation and new ideas and all that stuff will remember that maybe sometimes the old ideas work too. And the ways that things worked before 50 years ago, and Milton Friedman came out with his pronouncement, that maybe we need to go back to look at the old systems and realize that some of them work perfectly fine as well. We've worked cooperatively, we've worked in community for a long time, and know that's sometimes the best way to get things done.
I agree with you. I
Mhm.
think you remember that I'm a Rotarian, and
Exactly.
yeah, and of course that's our motto is service
Yeah.
above self, and find ways where our corporation or even as individuals can serve our community wherever we are.
Exactly. Exactly. And the Rotarians have been around for how long now?
100 years, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah,
there you
100
go.
and
You
some
see,
years. Yeah.
sometimes those old ideas, I mean, they're sure there's new ways to approach some of it, but sometimes those old ideas just work, and why
Yeah.
we're so quick to toss them. We,
Yeah.
we we're bad at becoming obsessed with the new shiny things and running after them and forgetting that maybe there's some older lessons to relearn.
I agree. Very profound. I agree. Thank you, Jane.
You're very welcome.
And how
And
about a good news or legacy story? Anything you want to share around that?
legacy story. Oh, good news. It's it's hard to narrow things down to one to one single story, because my whole life, it seems, is about people bringing stories and saying we want to make this thing happen.
Sure.
Um, Let me talk just a little bit about one of my what I think is one of the strongest social entrepreneurs in Alberta,
Okay.
because there is a Calgary connection too. This is a man who was a businessman, and his daughter came to one day though and said, "So yeah, but Dad, what are you doing to change the world?"
Mhm.
So he sold his businesses and started the Jasper Place Wellness Center, which is in the western part of Edmonton, a challenged neighborhood. People who, sometimes down on their luck and sometimes on the streets. And so this is a drop-in center where you can get now everything from financial literacy to medical support to housing supports, all that kind of thing. He started a housing project because you need homeless people, you need affordable housing. So he started that, but then he figured out that you really can't just have a roof over somebody's head. You have to give them useful work and something to do. So he started out, of course, as these things do, with a thrift store and a junk removal service, and then ended up now as the largest mattress recycling company in Alberta,
Wow.
providing services all around the province now. He's just recently started working in Calgary. Paid over $1 million last year in salaries to challenged, barriered employees. These are people who normally cannot get a full-time job for one
Wow.
reason or another. And is taking all of that stuff out of the landfill,
Wow.
recycling it, repurposing it, selling it to other places. We talked last week about a new system that they've discovered they've done research. They found that there's 5 of these in other parts of the world that take foam, which is one of the byproducts that they have, and recycles it into usable oil. Right, so
Wow.
it's recycling it right back to its petrochemical starting point, so it can be reused again,
Wow.
which is amazing.
Amazing.
Coming out of what looked like just a drop-in center
Wow.
for disadvantaged and homeless people. So if you look at the world with a slightly different viewpoint, you can create good jobs for people to give them good living wages. You can give them a roof over their head. He's got a food security project where they run community gardens and they're building a community kitchen. The medical clinic is going to expand because that's a profitable business to get into too. It's just taking a slightly different view about what your role is in society and what you find important and what you want to give back and what you want to really change. That's what social enterprise principles give you. It gives you that kind of different lens on the world. And so when you say what kinds of inspiring things, those are the ones I like listening
Yeah.
to and finding out about. And there's all kinds of that work being done all across the province, all across the country. I do think it's a change in how we want to get stuff done. So
Amazing.
mhm.
You and I chatted at one time that you were thinking of putting out a newsletter or something that pushes out to the people that love you, like me.
I guess I don't send out things as often as I should. I'm too busy trying to get the work done.
I'm sure.
We did publish something, and there's a PDF version of it on our website, which is socialenterprisefund.ca.
Okay.
Last January, we circulated a magazine about our first 10 years of work. In the Globe and Mail one Saturday during January, and then the pandemic hit, and we haven't done much more to circulate it since. But you can see it up on our site. And there's also a pretty good section about our clients' stories about them and what they've done and what they're doing. So that could be some fun reading.
That's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
going to go take another look. I remember you sending the magazine, which was awesome. It
Oh,
was so
good.
well
I'm glad
done.
you saw it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it was really
It
good.
was fun. It was fun to do. That's part of my previous life was I started life as a journalist. So, yeah, much to the dismay of my mother and my former math teacher, I ended up in finance, which is a bit of a strange journey. But yes, it was fun to go back to publishing a magazine.
Amazing. Jane, thank you so much for joining us today. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you for asking. We don't often get a chance to talk about the work that we're doing and the things we're seeing in the world, and I appreciate you doing this.
No, thank you. I love the work that you guys are doing. So keep it
Thanks
up.
very
Thank
much.
you. And let us know if there's anything
We'll
we can do
try.
to support.
Thanks very much. Just being there and rooting for us is really important.
Forever I will.
Thank you.
Everyone, that was Jane Bisbee with the Social Enterprise Fund out of Edmonton, but all across Alberta, serving and supporting our amazing citizens here. Thank you so much for joining us for Cat's Track, and we'll see you next time.